Hey, good morning. Yes, up and at 'em, guys. Today is Monday, November 10th. Bear with me a little bit because I picked up this bug. I think it was the other day when I was there working in the rain with firewood and hauling it back and forth from on the farm down to the shop, which is a little over a mile away. But what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about you can't pour from an empty cup. And this is something that every shop owner, every employer, every business owner needs to understand. And I think we do to a certain point, but what we do is totally different. So hang tight. Alrighty, welcome back to the channel. My name is Eric. If you didn't already know it, yes, this is the weekday, Monday through Friday. Today is Monday, the 10th of November 2025. So what does it mean by you can't pour from an empty cup? I mean, I know every one of you has gotten to this point and beyond. It's just something that we all have in common, and that is drive. And we seem to think that we have unlimited drive, unlimited energy, and we can go, go, go like was it the ever ready rabbit or bunny or whatever? But simply that's not the case, is it? What ends up happening is you push until you push too far. And then things like what's going on with me and being sick, that's what happens. Is that your body sends you a message back saying, no, we can't do this. So what's the best answer? The best answer is you need to be able to, and I'm not saying just the amount of energy that you're spending per week at work, because you may be doing this at work as an employee too. It's the stress level that you're under too. And a lot of people don't take that into account because if you're under a lot of stress, that makes the workload twice as hard, if that makes any sense. I know for me, if I'm enjoying what I'm doing, I don't feel like I'm burning energy, burning calories, dancing to the oldies. I actually feel like I'm gaining energy. But if you're under a lot of stress, bills, deadlines, what have you, it becomes a grind. And having a grind once in a while is not going to kill you. At least not when you're younger. Maybe when you get older, that's when it'll kill you. But no, you have to set your pace, okay? And you have to listen to the body, and you have to know when to stop and when to keep going. And most of us don't know when to stop. That's our biggest problem, is that we have that functioning level of we have to keep going. I was telling my son, he's like, Dad, you need to slow down a little bit. And I said, my biggest fear is if I slow down, I'll never be able to start back up again. And I was being sarcastic to him, but in reality, that's the truth, right? We're afraid that if we give just even a little bit, that things are going to start going south on us. That if we're not there 24/7, then things are going to go to hell in a handbasket. And I can just kind of take you back to, back when I had the 4 overseas employees and I had 4 employees working with me shipping and packing and stuff. I felt that way. 110%. If I wasn't there, the regular employees did 8 to 3. Okay? Me, I was down there at 2:30 in the morning. I was already shipping and packing, knocking out the drop ships and everything else. And I was the last person to leave. They left at 3. I'd be there until almost 5. Every day. And that was including Saturdays when they didn't have to work. I was doing the shipping and packing myself. Sundays spent doing bills and invoices and everything else. And I still spent a whole day. So my days started to blend. And when you're working 7 days a week with no vacation, and people used to laugh, I used to laugh at people when they tell me about their vacation. And they ask me what I did on my vacation. Well, I shipped and packed and went to work. Because I was afraid that it was my baby and that if I wasn't there, everything would crumple. They wouldn't know what the heck to do. And I can remember getting pneumonia. And I had to kind of take a step back. And that meant I was home for a couple days. And all I could think of was, what kind of a mess is it going to be in when I get back? And what I found was something totally I hadn't expected. And that is, they had done better with me not there than having me there. I almost thought about retiring at that point. But no, they knew I was sick. They knew the level of commitment that I put in and the amount of energy, and they just did not want to let me down. They wanted to make sure that everything ran smoothly, and some of them spent extra time doing it, on their own time to make sure that everything was running like clockwork when I got back from being sick. That's the shop you need. If you're a one-man band, you're wearing all these hats. So you go in the morning, you put on the boss's hat, and you tell yourself what you need to get done. Then you put on the employee hat, mechanic hat, go out and do your mechanical stuff. Come back in, put on your customer service hat, and then you put on your billing and everything else hat and do invoices so that you can have it, and then go back to customer service to collect the money. Sounds pretty easy, huh? It's not. I think it's harder with just one person than it is if you have a couple. But this day and age, in order to have a couple people, that means you got to employ someone. And a whole bunch of new rules come with employees. The employees I've had over the years have been phenomenal. The pain in the ass of the paperwork and the filings and everything else, and how much the federal and state take out of me for each employee is just stupid. We're taxed to death. But that's why a lot of people stay with just one person. It's not because they can't tolerate somebody else in the shop with them. It's they can't afford it. There's more to it than just the minimum wage or the hourly wage, right? I mean, all of us business owners know that. I've seen some businesses where it's been just the opposite, and that is where the owner is non-existent. He's out on his yacht. I got a rowboat. He's out on the golf course. I've got a woodlot. Doing all these fun and fancy things with the cash that's coming off the business instead of reinvesting it back in. Who's the smarter one? Well, he's definitely enjoying himself, but he's not keeping his eye on the books for the employees to help them where needed. And it's not sending a good message to the employees. They're working hard, working their asses off, and he's out gallivanting. But maybe he's a pain in the ass, and the employees are happy not to have him around to deal with him. Who knows? So what can we put in place to say, all right, enough's enough. We need to do this in a better fashion. And I can tell you that just with Claude and I going to half days, we don't work full days anymore. We did for years and years and years. And he's 74. And with me being sick last year with the open heart surgery and stuff, kind of changed the landscape. It meant that I couldn't put in full days right off the bat. And I still get asked this question. Are you back to work yet? Am I back to work yet? The minute they released me from upstate, after 3 weeks in the ICU, I spent a week with my daughter. And then the following week I came home. She brought me home on a Saturday. And that Monday, I had Claude pick me up, take me to the shop to work half days. That was the second week after being out of the hospital. And I still had the tape running down my chest where they had glued it. The tape on my incision all the way up from my ankle to my kneecap where they took veins out to repair the heart. But I was back to work. Most people don't go back to work for at least 4 months. And I got, what are you doing? You're going to kill yourself. And on top of that, I was wearing a life vest going to work for half days. And the life vest is if your heart goes into AFib or stops, it shocks the living piss out of you. Simply put. It's kind of like having, the electric chair wrapped around your chest in case something goes awry. So yeah, for the people that knew me and knew what I was doing, they were shocked. To the people that didn't know me, they figured I was out for at least 4 months, 5 months. No, second week, I was only out for 1 week, and I was back to work half days. And we've continued that because Claude's getting older and the work has slowed down. And I think it slowed down because a lot of people thought we quit with my heart situation. And we didn't. We just backed it down and we're making it, what's the right word? Because I even worry about him getting sick. If he has too much stress or too much push and everything else. It's not just the shop owner that has to be on point about this. It's all the employees too. It's not just a shop owner's thing of going until you fall over. I've seen employees do the same thing. They come and they work all day long and then they go home and they do a bunch more work and it's kind of like Groundhog Day for them. And days start to blend. So this is all kind of pushing towards burnouts, right? Where the body and the mind is just tired. And there's a better way to do it. There is. And that is if you can recognize when you're starting to get into that Groundhog's Day, that means your body's telling you and your mind's telling you, we need to take a break. You need to take a break and go do something that you enjoy doing. Now, for me, I enjoy cutting wood. As long as people aren't around me pushing me, I can take my time. I take my thermos of coffee, my files, my saws, all 6 of them, and I go cut wood. Do I cut wood so I can make money with it? No. No, but it's something that I can see. I was just talking to my son about this yesterday because they were in for hunting and stuff. Is when I start getting overloaded, frustrated, and negativity, my new go-to is start taking on some smaller tasks that you can accomplish. So you feel a sense of an accomplishment. So find the smaller stuff that you can do without a lot of energy. And that was, I was going to replace the back door on the house because my one German Shepherd had chewed some on the molding and you could see daylight out through the door. And if the wind come up, it would blow right through that crack. So I got some weather stripping that's been sitting in the garage now all summer long. I went out and got it, and I wanted to start doing weather stripping. And he's like, what are you doing? I said, well, if you look, we shut this door and turn the hall light off. You can see right out through that door. So I'm trying to get the weather stripping so that the door closes so that the cold air can't blow in on the colder days because the living room was cold last year, no matter what I did, and it was because that door. It was just kind of like having vents to the outside. So even that he took away from me and said, "Let me do that." I'm like, but they were concerned because I wasn't hunting. And I wasn't hunting because I just haven't felt that good. And between chasing cows, fixing fence, and working out in the rain and the cold, it's kind of tired me out a little bit. So instead of going out and having more of it, I was trying to find things to do inside. Of course, I went and I got the wood splitter and took it down to the shop with the four-wheeler. And I'll tell you, even at 20 degrees out, my face only hurt for like 3 minutes, and then it was frostbite so bad that... But I got the wood splitter down where I wanted it in the woodshed. You think I could pull that over to get it started? I cranked and cranked and cranked. But I couldn't crank it fast enough. It was just like it was cold and didn't want to do anything. So my son was saying, "What are the things that you're trying to accomplish, Dad? And we'll give you a hand, we'll get them knocked out, and you can go hunt with us this evening." And I said, "Well, I'm not going hunting this evening, but if you could go down and start that wood splitter, that would be great." So they hopped in my truck. I took them down. And of course, my son is 6'2" or something. He's solid. And by the third pull, he had it running. And I'm just shaking my head. I couldn't even get it to... I cranked on it 8 or 10 times, and I couldn't get it to fire up. So I told him, I said, we'll put it on half choke, and I'll run you back up, and then I'll come back. So I spent the rest of the day getting all the firewood split up, the big chunks that I had thrown in the woodshed. And then I hooked it to the truck, pulled it out, and started splitting the stuff that was outside. And I had to finally give up because it was started having freezing rain, and the blocks were iced up so bad that I set it onto the wood splitter, and it would shoot right off the other side. I said, I'm fighting it. So I ended up pulling it out and then backing it back into the woodshed so it was under cover instead of being out in the freezing rain and everything else there yesterday. You have to learn and recognize warning signs, and that is when days start blending together, when you start getting agitated and you start having a negative view of life, or you're just exhausted when you get in at night. And I'm telling you right now, I don't care if you put in 24 hours a day into business, you're not going to do any more than if you put in 8. 8 hours is more than what you need. If you can't do it in 8, then you need to work smarter, not harder. And if that means you have a whole yard right full of lawnmowers that need to be serviced, and you have customers clamoring they want theirs done, when you get done with the 8 hours, it'll always be there tomorrow, and go home, get a good night's sleep, whether it's something good on your stomach. And I'm telling you right now, by doing it that way, you will get more done in that 8 hours than you did if you pushed it for 10 or 12 every day, trying to get caught up. Because if you get the rest you need, you get some energy, the food that you're eating, quality food, not stuff you throw in the microwave for 2 minutes. Good homegrown stuff. That will rejuvenate the body. And then getting a restful sleep where you're not stressing about something before you go to bed. That will solve a lot of your problems. But the biggest thing is just recognizing the warning signs before it's too late. So in the comments, you guys must encounter this. And how do you know the warning signs when it's time to say, okay, I need to back off a little bit? With me, I usually let it go until I'm sick. And then I'm like, oh crap, I let it go past that point. How do you do it? On that note, you enjoy your Monday. It's going to be crappy out there. I already know it. The sand trucks just went by again. and we'll see what today brings. On that note, we got to do a road call before I leave you. There's a guy that's 40 minutes away, and I hope the roads are in decent shape because I told him I'd be up there around 8:39. He's got a bypass hose for his radiators leaking that needs to be fixed, which means we have to take the hood off and everything else to get at it. And if it's sitting out in the yard like I expected it is, it's going to be all ice. You guys have a great day because I know we're going to have fun today. All right.